World leaders and global charities are demanding answers this morning after 7 aid workers were killed by an Israeli airstrike in Gaza. A dual Canadian-American citizen reportedly among them. Now Israel is promising a full investigation.
This will help us reduce the risk of such an event from occurring again. The incident will be investigated in the fact-finding and assessment mechanism, an independent, professional, and expert body.
The U.S.-based aid organization World Central Kitchen says 7 of its members were killed in 2 armored vehicles branded with the group's logo when they were hit. World Central Kitchen delivers food relief and prepares meals for people in need. The Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, is calling for accountability for the death of an Australian aid worker who was killed in the attack.
The truth is that this is beyond any reasonable circumstances. Someone going about providing aid and humanitarian assistance should lose their life. This is a human tragedy that should never have occurred, that is completely unacceptable.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu released a statement saying that this was a tragic incident, calling it an unintended strike on the innocent people of Gaza. He also vowed Israel would do everything it can to ensure this does not happen again. Now, the opening of a sea route to Gaza was allowing aid groups to get desperately needed aid into Gaza. But several aid ships that recently arrived have now turned back after the airstrike, with more than 200 tons of aid now undelivered. World Kitchen has now suspended delivery of food aid to Gaza in light of the attack. All right, joining me now to discuss this further is Dalia Al-Awqati, Head of Humanitarian Affairs with Save the Children. Good morning. Thank you so much for being with us. I want to begin by getting your reaction to this news.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, it's absolutely tragic. This is not the first time that aid workers have been targeted and killed in Gaza, but it is still incredibly sad. And as I mentioned, tragic in my heart and our condolences from Save the Children go out to all those that have been impacted, and particularly those that have been killed and their families. This is absolutely unacceptable, and humanitarian aid workers should never be a target.
How vulnerable are aid workers in Gaza right now?
I think we've seen over the past almost 6 months the level of vulnerability that humanitarian aid workers experience in Gaza. Whether they're aid workers, whether they're medical workers, whether they're also journalists, that their lives have been, their work has cost them their lives. Their mission, their conviction of assisting people in need, of stopping people from starvation, has ultimately cost them their lives. And this vulnerability continues, and it will escalate if an independent investigation and accountability is not brought forward for this incident. And I really want to stress that. We've seen repeated incidents. Save the Children's had one of our own staff killed in December alongside his family. We're not alone as an organization. UNRWA has suffered many, many losses, as have Doctors Without Borders and many others. But the key really is about bringing forward accountability for this situation. It's unacceptable that people, the aid workers that are trying to help Palestinians that are starving as we speak, are having to pay with their lives.
I want to focus in on the word that you just used, and that is independent, an independent investigation. Israel has said that they will be conducting their own investigation into what happened. What are your thoughts around that then?
I think independent and impartial means international. It means unaffiliated with a particular government. And again, we've seen a history of investigations in some cases, actually not even all targeting his warranted investigations in the eye of the Israeli government. But again, the impartiality, the independence of an investigation is absolutely critical. We also do have a situation where it's rather cut and dry. The cars were targeted by missiles, and accountability must stand regardless of whether it was a mistake or not.
Isn't there some sort of notification system for workers so that they would be safe while doing their work?
Absolutely. So based on what I'd read in public sources this morning, This was an area that was supposed to be deconflicted, and there were notifications around the movement of these vehicles. So what I had read said that there were notifications around the movements of these vehicles, of the World Central Kitchen vehicles. And as you can see, these vehicles are also marked, as most, in fact, almost all aid vehicles are in these contexts. And that is specifically and precisely for the point of deterring attacks and for declaring humanitarian usage and purpose, which is protected under international humanitarian law. So in addition to being deconflicted, they're very clearly marked as not targets.
Finally, what does it mean for the people of Gaza that this work has now been called off?
Unfortunately, it means quite a few things. As you know, World Central Kitchen has announced that they're closing or suspending their operations at the moment. So it means that the thousands upon thousands of people that they've been feeding will not have a source of food. And I want to, again, frame this in the broader context of the report that came out from the United Nations 2 weeks ago about the food insecurity levels being at alarmingly high levels. That starvation and famine are imminent in Gaza, both in North and South Gaza. And it will also act as a deterrent for other humanitarian aid workers that have been contributing, have been in Gaza fulfilling their mission as humanitarians. And it will, unfortunately, probably cause other organizations to reconsider their stance about the presence of international aid workers, which are absolutely also necessary in this context to a response, because our Palestinian colleagues have been suffering and are living through the same conditions as everyone else. So that additional boost of staff, that presence of rotations, that presence of international staff that brings some measure of accountability, but also additional workforce to one of the largest humanitarian catastrophes that we are witnessing today will certainly be impacted. And it will send a message to the rest of the world if an investigation does not happen, if accountability is not provided by the governments of the different nationalities, including the government of Canada, that it is okay to target humanitarian aid workers and no one will be held accountable.